Hey there! If you didn't know, this video is a part of a series of videos called The Road to Emerald Kaizo. In this series, I attempt a number of Nuzlocke challenges, with each game getting progressively harder than the last until we eventually reach Emerald Kaizo. This video is the last in our Genlock challenge, where we bring over any Pokemon that survived the Elite Four of the last game into the current game. If you want to watch the full series, you can check out the playlist link in the description or click on that little eye thing in the corner. There will be spoilers from the last game in just a few seconds, so click off now if you want to get caught up. In the last video, we successfully beat both In and Getsus completely deathless, letting us bring over an entire squad of Pokemon. Those Pokemon are Mixo the Sandile, Schlepper the Fungus, Dwarf the Drillbur, Hamburger Helper the Timpole, Campfire the Darumaka, and Jumbo the Gibble. Without further ado, I present to you the last video in our Genlock. We start our adventure by meeting Bianca and our rival Hugh at a small plaza in Esperta City. We get offered our selection of starters and we pick Shiva the Tepig. After that, we have our first battle with Hugh, which we win without issue. From here, we go get ourselves some Pokeballs from Bianca on Route 19. Then we get our first encounter of the game, Purloin. This is a huge W for us, simply because it's not Patrat. With Enzo the Purloin added to the squad, we head on up to Flakesi Town. On the way there, we meet Alder, who offers to train us. When we catch up with him, before we can train with him, first we gotta go give Hugh the extra town map we have. On the way there, we have the supreme dishonor of adding Tawny to our party. Soon enough though, we reach Flakesi Ranch and find Hugh, who battles us. He still only has an Oshawott though, so we handle him without issue. After giving him the town map, the owners of the ranch want us to help them find their missing herdier, to which we agree. After wandering around for a bit, we make our way to the backwoods of the ranch, where we find a member of Team Plasma in a schwanky new uniform as well as the herdier. For some reason, he gives us a TM and then makes his escape. After we return the herdier, we head back to Alder at the trainer school. He has us fight a couple kids there who we beat without issue. And that is apparently the entirety of Alder's training boot camp that he offered us, because we just leave after that without saying a word to him. We head back to Esperta City, since that's actually where the first gym is. We beat the two gym trainers and make it the gym leader Sharon. Sharon leads the fight with a disgusting Patrat, while we lead with Nils the Psyduck. On the first turn, we hit the Patrat with a water gun, while it sets up with a workup. We expect the rat to keep trying to set up, so we click disable. Instead, it hits us with a tackle. We hit it with another water gun, bringing it down to red health, while Nils is forced to use his berry. From here, we outspeed and take it out. Next up is Sharon's Ace Lillipup. It uses workup in its first turn too, and we hit it with a water gun. We want to try and disable its workup, but because it outspeeds us, it's able to use tackle instead and have that disabled. That last tackle brought Nils down to red health, so on the next turn we swap into Shiva. Shiva eats a bite on the swap and gets a lucky burn on the next turn, nullifying all of the Lillipup's workups. With its attack stat butchered, the Lillipup is easily finished off, ending the fight and getting us the first gym badge. We go unlock Jumbo from the PC and then start making our way to Verbank. When we arrive, we find the second gym leader Roxy having an argument with her father, but that family drama is none of our business. After that, we go pick up Archon the Magby to fill out our party, and then we head to the gym. We beat the two gym trainers and then take on Roxy. She leads with a coughing, and we lead with Nils the Psyduck. On turn 1, we outspeed and hit it with a confusion, bringing it down to yellow health. It uses tackle on us, but it's only chip damage, letting us take it out on the next turn. She brings out her Ace Whirlipede next. We decide to swap out into Shiva here, taking a Venoshock on the way in. A second critical Venoshock brings Shiva down to yellow health, but a single flame charge is enough to Oko the bug in the fight and win us the badge. With our win, we unlock Schlepper from the box and add a welcome grass type to the team. After that, we head to the docks where we help Hugh and Roxy in confronting some Team Plasma thugs. After we run them out of town, we watch Roxy and her dad sort out their family troubles and then take a boat to Castelia City. We beeline it to the gym, but we're informed that the gym leader Berg is out looking for some Team Plasma members. So along with Hugh, we head into the sewers beneath the city. We soon find some Plasma Grunts, and after we beat them, Berg emerges from deeper in the sewers and tells us that there aren't any more grunts. Then we have our first run-in with Colress, who compliments us on our battling before leaving. Then we head to the weird cocoon-themed gym and start to battle our way to the top. However, on the way there, Archon catches a stray smackdown from a Dwebble and gets Oko'd. It really sucks to lose a fire type right before the bug type gym leader, but she's our only casualty before we finally get to fight Berg. He leads the fight with Swadloon, and we lead with Shiva. It's quad weak to fire, so we easily Oko with a flame charge. Up next is Dwebble. He spends his first few turns using rock polish while we get in chip damage before eventually taking it down. His last Pokemon is Lavani. Thanks to the speed boost from Flame Charge, we outspeed it and managed to Oko it with one more, ending the fight and getting us the badge. As we leave the city, we meet up with Chorus, who ever so kindly makes the Crustle blocking the path move out of the way. After that, he battles us. He is a Steel-type trainer though, so Shiva beats him up without breaking a sweat. After that, we continue forward and make it to Nimbasa City. We make a beeline to the gym and spend a solid 10 minutes running around the roller coaster area before I learn that this is, in fact, not a gym. Feeling thoroughly humiliated by chat, we head to the real gym, where we face down Elisa. She leads with an Emolga and we lead with Hamburger Helper. The Emolga is only able to get in chip damage against us, while we're able to set up an Aqua Ring and take it out with a couple Muddy Waters. Elisa sends out Flaffy next, who hits us with a takedown. We use Mudshot against it and bring it all the way down to red health, letting us take it out on the next turn. All Elisa has left is her Strika. At this point, Helper is at half health, so we decide to switch into Tani. But for the first time in this series, we get Pursuit Sniped, which crits and kills Helper. We send in Jumbo, who gets outsped and hit with a second critical pursuit, bringing him down to half health. However, our Sandtomb also brings the Strika down to half health, so we're even. At least until the Citrus Berry pops, bringing it back up to green. At this point, I'd like to swap out to guarantee Jumbo's survival. But with the risk of a pursuit killing him, we're forced to stay in and risk getting hit by a high roll crit. And thank God we didn't switch, because this fucking donkey gets a third critical pursuit. That's 3 in a goddamn row! It's time for a short math break. In Generation 5, there was a baseline 6.25% chance of getting a crit. The Strika doesn't have any crit boosting effects, so if we cube 6.25%, we get the nearly astronomical 0.02%. It's not quite as rare as a shiny, but it's close enough that my anger feels vindicated. Anyways, we hit the Strika with another Sandtomb and bring it down to red health. At this point, Jumbo is functionally dead. He's one hit away from death, and the Strika outspeeds him and it has Pursuit, so we can't swap. We click Dragon Rage, fully expecting Jumbo to be our second death of the run. However, the Strika goes for a quick attack instead, leaving Jumbo alive at 15 HP, letting the Dragon Rage finish it off and end the fight. We go unlock Mikeso from the box and start heading towards Route 5. However, we're interrupted when we run into Hugh and a bunch of Team Plasma grunts. Apparently the grunts are kind of just like hanging out, and Hugh attacks them on sight without being provoked. I get that Team Plasma are the bad guys in the story, but Hugh is just out here starting fights for no reason. Anyway, we start to help him beat up the grunts. The first one has nothing but a single Watchog, and this single fucking Watchog almost sweeps us. Let me show you how. We lead with Tani and get off an early Confuse Ray. However, we also get confused from our Confuse Ray. From here, we decide to swap out into Dabaz, our Girder, to try and oak with a Watchog. On the swap, we get hit by a Super Fang, bringing us down to half health. We don't want to lose Dabaz to a crit, so we go back into Tani, who gets hit by another Confuse Ray. So these past 2 turns, all we've done is wipe out half of our Girder's health. For the next 2 turns, we hit ourselves in confusion. The Watchog, on the other hand, snaps out of confusion and brings us down to almost red HP. At no point during its confusion's turn did it ever hit itself, so it's still at full HP. However, we are still confused and will probably die if we stay in. So we swap into Shiva, who is instantly hit with a Super Fang, bringing him to half. We don't want to risk losing our starter here, so we swap into Jumbo, who is instantly put to sleep from an incoming hypnosis. I feel like I'm losing my goddamn mind fighting against this 200 IQ Watchog. Jumbo is brought down to a 4th HP while he's asleep, so we have no choice but to swap. We go into Schlepper, who is also hit by hypnosis on the swap. Thankfully, Schlepper only takes 2 Super Fangs before waking it up and hitting it with a Giga Drain, finally dealing some damage to it. From here, we're thankfully able to take it out with some Giga Drain spam. I feel like this Watchog was sent from hell to personally shit on me for all the shitting on I've done to Watchog and Patrat. But whatever. The next grunt has a Trubbish. We're forced to lead with Tani, who we sack off for a free swap into Mikeso, who easily takes out the Trubbish, ending the grunt fights. With the Watchog from hell dealt with, we go put Tani into hell and continue on to Route 5. Here we have my first ever rotation battle, clear it, and then continue on to Driftvale City. Once we arrive there, we find 2 members of Team Plasma having an argument with one another. It's here that we learn that Team Plasma has actually split up into 2 groups. One that follows in and are generally good guys now, and one that follows Getsus and are still bad guys. Those are the ones with the schwanky new uniforms. We go talk to the former members of Team Plasma, get given a free Zorua, and then head on to the gym. For some reason though, the gym is pitch black and the lights never turn on. So after looking up a map of the gym, we're able to make it to Clay. Clay leads with the Krokorok, and we lead with Schlepper. On the first turn, it uses Torment against us, but we hit it with a Giga Drain and take it out. Clay brings out his Sandslash next. It uses a Crush Claw against us, and we decide to use Toxic since the Torment prevents us from using Giga Drain again. We get hit with the Fury Cutter next, bringing us down to half health. But now we can use Giga Drain again, so we bring the Sandslash down to low health and go back up to nearly full ourselves. On the next turn, one last Giga Drain is enough to finish it off. All Clay has left is his Ace Excadrill. Because of the Torment, Schlepper can't do any real damage to the Excadrill, so we swap out into Drainus the Sigilyph. On the swap, Drainus is hit by a Metal Claw, bringing her to half health. Excadrill could kill Drainus with a Rock Slide from here, so instead we swap into Nils the Golduck. The incoming Rock Slide combined with the following Crush Claw brings Nils down to half health, but with the help of a critical Aqua Tail, she's still able to Oko the Execute and end the fight. Now that we have the 5th badge, we leave the gym where we find Hugh waiting for us. Seeing potential in the two of us, Clay invites us to join him at the Pokemon World Tournament building. When we arrive, Clay asks us to compete in the Driftvale Tournament, where we have to fight and win 3 back-to-back battles without the opportunity to change our team. But for some reason, every Pokemon you fight in the tournament is only level 25. And with a level cap of 39, we beat all 3 trainers just through sheer level difference. After we leave the tournament building, we have a brief talk with Sharon and Hugh before we're interrupted by a Plasma Grunt running by. We chase them down to the dock, where we find that Team Plasma has an old-school sailing boat. As soon as we step foot on board, we're ambushed by 12 Plasma Grunts. Thankfully, we're still pretty over-leveled compared to them, so the fights aren't too hard to get through. We try to start interrogating the Grunts about their plans, but we're interrupted by Zinzolan of the 7 Sages. He threatens us by saying that Team Plasma will rule Unova with a legendary dragon, and then summons the Shadow Triad to remove us from the ship. It's not explained how they did this, so I'm just gonna assume it was some kind of Naruto-style ninja magic. Anyway, Sharon says that he needs to check something out on Route 6 and invites us to join him. He takes us to a Weather Institute type building and tells us that Lacrinosa, Driftvale, and Castelia were all hit by a cold spike that dropped the temperature to minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit, or if you don't like freedom units, 50 degrees Celsius. He asks us to help him investigate these places and gives us the HM for Surf. After that, we make our way through Chargestone Cave, pick up a Joltik named Azel, and make it to Misthalon City. We have a quick run-in with Professor Juniper, who just casually gives us a goddamn Master Ball like it's nothing before going on her merry way. Typically in the past, I've used the Master Ball to catch the Box Art Legendary to avoid fighting it. But in Black 2, you don't actually get the opportunity to catch the Box Art Legendary. So for the first time, the Master Ball may actually come in handy. But for now, we just head straight to the gym to challenge Skyla. Skyla leads with the Swoobat, and we lead with Azel. On the first turn, we outspeed and use Electro Web against the Swoobat, bringing it down to red health. It retaliates and hits us with an Acrobatics, bringing Azel down to exactly half health. On the next turn, Skyla uses a Hyper Potion, and we use the opportunity to Volt Switch out of Azel. Luckily for us though, the Volt Switch damage Okos the Swoobat. We switch into Shiva, and Skyla sends out her Ace Swanna. This is the worst matchup in the history of matchups, as Shiva is weak to both flying and water. So we hard swap out into Nils, who's hit by an Air Slash. A second Air Slash brings Nils to dangerously low health, and we do a pitiful amount of damage with the Zen Headbutt. We can't stay in here, so we swap into Duarte. Duarte gets outsped and hit by a super effective Bubble Beam, dropping him into red health. But thankfully, our Rock Slide knocks the Swanna out. All Skyla has left now is a Skarmory. We hard swap back into Shiva for free, as the Skarmory uses Agility. An incoming Air Slash does minimal damage to Shiva, while we drop the Skarmory down to half health with a Heat Crash. On the next turn, Shiva is hit by yet another Air Slash, but this one crits and nearly kills Shiva, but one more Heat Crash is all we need to KO the Skarmory and secure the badge. After we beat her, Skyla wants us to do a favor and check in on Professor Juniper, who's gone off to Celestial Tower. When we find Juniper at the tower, she wants us to meet her at Misthalon City and leaves. So we turn right back around and find her and Skyla at the airport. Once we get there, Skyla offers to fly us to Lintamustown, along with Bianca. After we land, Juniper wants us to go talk to Drayden about Zekrom and Reshiram to try and figure out what Team Plasma's up to. Meanwhile, Bianca goes hunting for a rare Pokemon in Reversal Mountain. Since we're headed in the same direction, we end up escorting her through the mountain until we reach Undella Town. And it is in Undella Town that marks the beginning of the end for us. Within seconds of stepping foot into the town, Hugh ambushes us and asks for a battle. He leads with an Unfazant, and we lead with Azel. Thanks to having a hasty nature, we outspeed and hit the bird with a Volt Switch, Okoing it. We swap into Dabaz, while Hugh brings in his Semi-Sage. It outspeeds us and hits us with a Speed Bomb, but we retaliate with a Wake Up Slap, bringing it down to half. Because it outspeeds us and the very real possibility of losing the boss to a crit, we swap out into Shiva, who takes almost no damage from the incoming Seed Bomb. From there, we take out the Simisage with a Heat Crash. All Hugh has left now is his Ace Samurott. We can't stay in against a water type, so we hard swap into Nils. Unfortunately, Nils isn't able to get in much damage before being hit by a critical slash, bringing her down to nearly red health. Expecting another slash, we swap into Sammy the Drifblim for free. From here, we easily outdamage the Samurott with Shadow Ball, bringing it all the way down to 1 hit point. Unfortunately, that means that the Samurott gets fully healed from a Hyper Potion, because Hugh is a cheating loser who uses items in battle. Despite that though, we're able to bring the Samurott back down to red health before we're forced to swap out. So we swap into Azel, who's brought down to half health from an incoming Aqua Jet. And then I may or may not have forgotten that Aqua Jet is a priority move, so I may or may not have left Azel in, who may or may not have died to a second Aqua Jet. But if you ask me, the Galvantula should have just gotten itself a defensive nature and it would have lived, instead of having a negative defense nature. So in my mind, Azel's blood isn't on my hand, it's his own fault. Anyways, we send in to Boz, who finishes off the Samurott and ends the fight. With new blood on his hands, Hugh leaves and heads to Route 13. We replace Azel with Van Dyke Discrafty and then follow him, heading to Lacunosa Town. We don't get very far before we run into Ace Trainer Angie, who managed to hit Duarte with an Inferno, instantly OHKOing him. That makes 2 deaths in the last 10 minutes. Undella Town is officially joining Iron Island and Unova's Victory Road as my most hated places in Pokemon. So, we add Mikeso to the team and continue on to Lacunosa without any more casualties. When we arrive, we're met by Juniper and Bianca, who take us to an old lady who lives in the town. She tells us an old story, where we learn that Kurm 1 lives in the Giant Chasm, 2 has canonically eaten people, and 3 is an alien. And now that we know that, Lacunosa serves no purpose to us anymore. As we're leaving the town, we run into Hugh right as Zinzolan and a grunt appears. Hugh demands to fight them, as he's still upset over his sister's cat being stolen 2 years ago. Oh right, I haven't mentioned that yet. So this whole time, Hugh has been angry about his sister's Purloin being taken by Team Plasma during the events of Black 1. He talks about it a lot, and it kinda just turned into white noise for me. But anyway, that's Hugh's entire character motivation. Zinzolan leads with a Golbat and a Cryogonal, and we lead with Shiva and Samurott the Spider Killer. On the first turn, the Golbat hits Shiva with an Acrobatics, nearly killing him. In return, we hit the Cryogonal with a Heat Crash, taking it out. Zinzolan sends in a Sneasel, and we're also forced to swap. The issue though, is that pretty much our entire team is weak to one of Dark, Flying, or Ice, which is a little unfortunate given what we're going up against. But regardless, we have to swap. We send in Van Dyke, who is instantly hit with an Acrobatics, bringing her down to almost red health. Luckily for us though, Hugh's Samurott uses revenge and manages to take down the Sneasel, turning the fight into a 2v1. And with the Ice type off the field, we can safely swap into Mikeso. From here, the battle is easily won. We learn that Team Plasma is looking for something in Opelucid City before they run off, with Hugh in hot pursuit. As we make our way to Opelucid, we wind up getting into a double battle, where Van Dyke gets hit by 2 Petal Dances on turn 1 and kills her before we even have a chance to react. She was on the team for only 30 minutes. We stole her from the wild, drafted her into war, and got her killed in less time than it takes to watch Piss or No Piss. This is going so bad. So we make a run back to the Pokemon Center and add a goddamn garbage bag to the squad. Place your bets down in the comments, folks. How long do you think the trash bag survives? 10 minutes? 20? Let me know. No, really, let me know. I'll wait. For those of you who commented, thank you for participating in the group activity. And for those of you who didn't, how dare you not comply with a request of a stranger online? Have you no shame? Anyway, by the grace of God, we make it to Opelucid without incurring any more casualties. However, now we have to attempt Drayden's Gym, which is full of very strong dragon types. And because of the level cap, we'll have to be under-leveled for many of the fights to make sure we don't over-level before Drayden. And as some of you may have guessed in the comments, you did comment, right? We instantly lose the trash bag against the first trainer fight in the gym. And then we also lose our Adamant Guts Raticate in a triple battle. And we have a couple close calls with Schlepper. I don't think I've ever lost so many Pokemon without just losing the run outright. This is an absurd amount of losses. But after that, we make it to Drayden. basically untouched, if you think about it. And guess what? We do Drayden deathless. Jumbo outspeeds and sweeps his whole team. So really, losing 5 Pokemon in a single 2.5 hour stream really isn't that bad. And now we get to learn all about Kyurem, so it was worth it, right? Right? Please someone tell me that I'm gonna be okay, because I'm really starting to doubt my Nuzlocking abilities. When we get to Drayden's house, he tells us about the DNA splicers and about how they're quote-unquote stored very safely. And then with perfect comedic timing, Team Plasma shows up in their flying ships and starts bombing the goddamn city. Now granted, it's not with explosives, but it's still pretty fucking crazy that the evil team is doing a bombing run over a populated city in a fucking Pokemon game. During the chaos, Team Plasma members start scavenging the city, looking for the DNA splicers. But somehow, it turns out that Drayden was right, and they're unable to find the splicers before we drive them out of the city. Which means that the splicers are totally safe and Team Plasma's plan is foiled. At least, it was, until Drayden brings the splicer out into the goddamn open and lets the Shill Triad take it from him. So now we have to go hunt down the Triad to try to clean up Drayden's mess. And we do manage to hunt down one of them, just not the right one. So Team Plasma successfully escapes with the DNA splicers. I feel like what Drayden's just done is the equivalent to Peter Quill punching Thanos on Titan and waking him up. Like, we won! We stopped the bad guys! But then you just had to go and fumble the ball. Anyway, Sharon shows up and tells us that based on the temperature of the region, Team Plasma is likely in Humalao City, which is awfully convenient for us, since that's where the last and final gym leader is. So we head over to the city through the underwater tunnel and go straight to the gym. But we learn that the gym leader Marlon isn't there. So we go find him and have him return to the gym. Then we puzzle our way through, though we do lose Nils along the way. But we make it to Marlon. He leads with the Caracosta and we lead with Schlepper. Because it's quad weak to grass, we're able to hit it with the Giga Drain and trigger it sturdy. That forces Marlon to use all of his healing items and let us take out the turtle, basically for free. Then he brings in his Wailord. He sets up an Amnesia, raising his special defense to +2, meaning that our Giga Drain does hardly any damage to it. On the next turn, his Wailord goes for a bounce, bringing Schlepper down to half health and paralyzing him. But we're able to hit it with a critical Giga Drain, taking it out and recovering back to full. All Marlon has left is his Ace Jellicent. His Jellicent outspeeds us, and because of paralysis, is able to hit Schlepper with 2 ominous winds. We're able to hit it with a Giga Drain and recover some of our lost health. But because of the paralysis, we can't risk staying in any longer. So we swap out into Enzo, who tanks an ominous wind on the swap. From there, a single super effective Night Slash takes it out, ending the fight and netting us the 8th and final gym badge. And now that we have all 8 badges, Hugh and I can start our search for Team Plasma. After scouring routes 21 and 22, we eventually find their ship in a hidden alcove on Route 21. With the help of Marlon, we're able to lower the gangplank and board the ship. We take out the 2 guards and begin searching the ship for Getsus. But before that, we have another self-shill request! This time, we're doing a recursive shill. That's right, a shill talking about the last shill. Now, there wasn't a self-shill in the last video, so we're jumping back a few months to the Platinum video. In that shill, we talked about how I had fallen off as a YouTuber, and that still hasn't changed. But if you want to help in getting us back on track, do your part and click the subscribe button. My ego would really appreciate it. Alright, back to the Plasma ship. We eventually manage to find Zinzolin, who reveals that Team Plasma has managed to capture Kyurem, and that's what's powering the ship's weaponry. From there, a double battle ensues between me, Hugh, Zinzolin, and a Plasmograd, but we beat them without even dropping below green health. At this point, Zinzolin calls in the Shadow Triad, and they teleport us off the ship, leaving us helpless as we watch the ship fly away to who knows where. After all the action is over, Sharon finally arrives. He's not totally useless though, as he tells us that Team Plasma is likely going towards Giant Chasm, Kyurem's original home. When we arrive at the Giant Chasm ourselves, we find that Rude and the other ex-Plasma members are confronting the other members of Team Plasma. When he fails to broker a peace, Hugh steps in and we end up having to fight. We beat up the Grunt and start heading to the center of the Giant Chasm, where we find the Plasma ship. Once we board, we find Hugh holding off a horde of Grunts, letting us continue deeper in. But as soon as we step foot through the doorway, we're ambushed into a double battle against 2 Grunts. And in this fight, Shiva gets hit by a crit, hits himself in confusion, and is then taken out by a high jump kick. All in one turn. And then Lele, our second Excadrill, is taken out on the following turn. In this fight, this random ass trainer fight that I couldn't prepare for, is what breaks me. On the spot, right after losing these 2, I asked chat if we should just reset. In this moment, I am fully ready to end our winning streak and start the game over. And it is only because they encourage me to keep going do we persist. We beat the fight, but my confidence is shattered, and my hope in actually beating the run has evaporated. Luckily, our box isn't total garbage, so we're able to recover, but not well enough for what's to come. The next major encounter is Ghetsis, but not just Ghetsis. Right before that fight, we have to fight Kyurem Black, and as it stands, we have no good way to deal with Kyurem. However, we have a potential out. In the Giant Chasm, there are 4 Pokemon that can appear in Shaking Grass: Audino, Clefable, Mamoswine, and most importantly, Metagross. With its base 130 defense and steel typing, it is the best counter we could possibly get to Kyurem Black. It's resistant to 3 out of 4 of Kyurem's moves, and its Meteor Mash is super effective against the dragon. The only issue is that Metagross is a 5% encounter chance, but we can drastically increase those odds. Audino is an 85% encounter, and by catching one somewhere else, we can effectively increase the odds of getting a Metagross from 5% to 33%. Normally, we'd also have to worry about catching it, but we still have that handy dandy Master Ball Juniper gave us from way back when. So all we need to do is find it, and it's ours. And when it's finally time to get our encounter, it likes the shake on this particular spot. Fuck yes! Oh my god. Oh, we got the Metagross. Oh. Now with Story the Metagross added to the team, we're ready to descend back into the plasma ship, where we find none other than Colress, who's prepared to try and fight us to let Ghetsis' plan come to fruition. Colress leads with a Magneton, and we lead with Campfire. On turn 1, we hit the Magneton with a Fire Punch and trigger it Sturdy, while it hits us with a Thunder Wave. Colress uses a full restore on his turn, while we're stuck with Paralysis. He then Volt Switches out into Magnezone, who gets hit by our Fire Punch, bringing it down to 1 hit point. Now, this Magnezone has Explosion, so to avoid potentially losing Campfire here, we swap into Story, who does get hit by an Explosion, but he tanks it easily. Colress then sends out his Klinklang. It starts setting up with a Shift Gear, while we do minimal damage with the Psychic. An incoming Thunderbolt brings Story to half health, but our next Hammer Harm is enough to take out the Klinklang. He sends his Magneton back in, who paralyzes Story with Thunder Wave, but with yet another Hammer Arm, we bring it down to yellow health. Because of the paralysis, we decide to swap into Mikeso, who is instantly hit by a Flash Cannon, bringing him down to half health. On our turn, we outspeed and hit it with a Dig, killing it. Colress brings in his Beheeyem, but with a Moxie boosted Crunch, it gets outsped and deleted. All he has left is his Metang, who gets taken out by one more Dig, ending the fight. With Colress out of the way, we're able to make our way to Ghetsis' office. But before we're able to fight him, he summons the Shadow Triad to try and stall us, while he makes his escape below. We learn that it's this member of the Shadow Triad who has Hugh's sister's Purloin, now evolved into a Liepard. After defeating all 3 members of the Triad, they disappear, leaving behind the Liepard and the way to Ghetsis open before us. We descend to the deepest point of Giant Chasm, where we find Ghetsis waiting for us. He summons Kyurem to him and commands it to kill us, but at that moment, none other than In and Zekrom appear to save us. But that is the worst mistake In could have made. With 2 of the legendary dragons present, Ghetsis uses the DNA splicers to fuse the 2 Pokemon, leaving In helpless. So now it's up to us to defeat Ghetsis and Kyurem. We lead the fight with Campfire, hoping to get off a Will-O-Wisp before swapping into Story. On the first turn, we outspeed, but we miss the 75% accurate Will-O-Wisp, letting the Kyurem hit Campfire with the Slash for free, bringing him down to half health. Now, if we're able to get a burn off on the next turn, we should be able to survive most of Kyurem's attacks. We just need the Will-O-Wisp to land, and for the Kyurem to not hit us with a critical Dragon Breath afterwards. We click Will-O-Wisp, and then we miss and it hits us with a critical Dragon Breath, killing Campfire. The odds of missing 2 75% accurate moves in a row, and then Kyurem using specifically Dragon Breath and getting a crit is 0.09%. That's how unlucky we had to be to lose Campfire here. We send in Story, who'll have to take out the Kyurem without the help from the burn debuff. Luckily for us, the Kyurem goes for a Freeze Shock, a 2-turn move, letting us hit it with a Meteor Mash and bring it to almost red health for free. And then on the next turn, it misses the attack, letting us take it out without Story even taking any damage. And the odds of that happening are 2.5%. So we've got both very lucky and very unlucky all in one fight. The whims of fate are fickle indeed. With the Kyurem defeated, now we have to face down Ghetsis. Ghetsis leads with the Cofagrigus, and we lead with Campfire. So the game automatically heals your party between these two fights, that Campfire is still technically dead. So we have to swap out on turn 1, and we go into Story, who's immune to the incoming Toxic. So it's basically like we just led with Story. So on turn 1, we hit the Cofagrigus with a Psychic and bring it down to half health. Meanwhile, Story is hit by a Shadow Ball, but that does negligible damage. A few turns later, we whittle the Cofagrigus down to red health, only for Ghetsis to heal right back up with a full restore. Now Story's at low HP, but we decide to stay in and risk missing a Meteor Mash. Luckily, the risk pays off and we take out the Cofagrigus. Ghetsis brings in his Seismitoad, and we hard swap into Schlepper. The Seismitoad hits us with a couple Earthquakes, but a single Giga Drain is enough to take it out and recover most of that damage. Up next is Electros. We know it's either going to go for a Flamethrower or Acrobatics, so we hard swap into Lysandre the Pelipper, who tanks the Acrobatics. And now that we know that the Electros will 100% go for a Thunderbolt, we swap into Mixo for free. Mixo totally walls the eel and takes it out a couple turns later. With the Moxie boost, we're then able to OHKO Ghetsis' Toxicroak and Drakebion, leaving him with only his Ace Hydreigon. Mixo would get OHKO'd if we left him in, so we swap back out into Lysandre, who was our prepared sack for this fight. As planned, Lysandre gets taken out, giving us a free swap into Jumbo, who outspeeds and OHKOs with a Dragon Gym boosted Dragon Claw, ending the fight. With his defeat, Ghetsis throws one of his classic temper tantrums before being taken away by a member of the Triad. And with that, the plot of the game is finished. All that remains is Victory Road, the Elite Four, and the Champion. Just like last time, we decide to box our best mons to save them for the Elite Four and instead bring out the B team for Victory Road. And this was possibly one of the biggest mistakes I could have made. On our way through Victory Road, we lose Cuff the Azumarill, Flanders the Golurk, Sumro the Crustle, Floris the Gothitelle, Debaz the Conkeldurr, Ivik the Jellicent, and Enzo the Liepard. By the time we make it through Victory Road, the B team has basically become the A team. Any confidence that I had gained since losing Shiva is gone. I am a broken man, and I have to beat the Elite Four with nothing but the scraps that remain of our box. But thankfully, it is not the quality of the box that matters in the Elite Four, but the quality of the party. After spending far too long team building, we have our final team. Mixo the Crocodile, Jumbo the Garchomp, Schlepper the Amoonguss, Story the Metagross, Drainus the Sigilyph, and Newton the Sock, who is our sack fodder for Iris. Every single member of this team is critical. If we lose any single one of them, we won't be able to defeat Iris. We are one Pokemon League away from being halfway there. Halfway up the mountain, halfway through the road to Emerald Kaizo. Just like in the last game, we start our E4 attempt with Caitlyn. Caitlyn leads with a Musharna, and we lead with Mixo. As you might expect, all we have to do is spam A with Crunch for Mixo to sweep Caitlyn thanks to Moxie and a Choice Band. Up next is Chantal. She leads with the Cofagrigus, and we once again lead with Mixo. Last time we fought Chantal's Cofagrigus, we had a whole complicated strategy to let Mixo sweep. This time, our strategy is as simple as Choice Band go brrr. And it works like a fucking dream. Every single Pokemon, instantly deleted. We successfully crunched our way to victory in the last two fights, but because we relied so heavily on Mixo, he ended up going over the level cap during the Chantal fight, meaning that we can't use him again until the Elite Four is beaten and the level cap raises to 59. With that in mind, we decide to take Grimsley on next. Grimsley leads with the Liepard, and we lead with Newton. The Liepard uses Fake Out on turn 1 to try and flinch us, but Inner Focus makes Newton immune to flinch, letting him hit the Liepard with a Brick Break, taking it out. He immediately goes into his Ace Bisharp from there. But another Brick Break from Newton is enough to take it out thanks to a lucky crit. But now he brings out his Crocodile, who lowers Newton's attack with Intimidate. We're locked into Brick Break because of the Choice Band. And because of the Intimidate, we're not confident in Newton's ability to take out the Crocodile, so we swap into Drainus, who eats a Rock Tomb on the swap. But now that the Intimidate drop is gone, we swap back into Newton, who cleanly outspeeds and kills with a close combat. All Grimsley has left is this Scrafty, who gets hit by one more close combat and gets OHKO'd. You know, Newton's eventual fate is to just be sack fodder for Iris, but he's really putting in work. But he won't be of any help against Marshall, who's next. Marshall leads with a Throw, and we lead with Drainus. We outspeed and hit the throw with the Psychic, OHKOing it. If Marshall brings in his Sock next, we'll have to swap because it has Sturdy. Luckily for us though, he sends in his Ace Conkeldurr, who's OHKO'd by his Psychic. But now the Sock comes out, and we're forced to swap into Story, who takes minimal damage from an incoming Rock Slide. A few Zen Headbutts later, and the Sock is taken out. All that's left of the Elite Four is a single Mienshao. A high jump kick would be lethal to Story, so we swap into Drainus, who tanks it with ease. From there, one more Psychic is enough to finish it off, ending the fight. Now, only Iris remains. During our prep, we concocted a step-by-step, turn-by-turn plan to ensure our victory. All that's left to do now is execute it. Iris leads with a goddamn Hydreigon, but we follow her example and lead with our own pseudo, Jumbo. We outspeed and go for a Dragon Claw, and just as planned, take it out. But up next is Iris's Lapras. This is the riskiest part of the fight. The plan dictates that we swap into Newton, but if we're hit by a Sing or frozen from an Ice Beam, the fight is over right then and there. We go into Newton and take the Ice Beam, and thankfully we avoid the 10% freeze chance. All Newton has to do is OHKO the Lapras, and then we sack it off to the Archeops that follows. We click Close Combat and successfully take out the Lapras. But now the plan doesn't go to plan, because Iris sends in her Druddigon instead. But this is even better, because now Newton gets to feast. A Close Combat OHKOs the Druddigon. Iris brings in her Aggron, a Close Combat OHKOs. And then Iris brings in her Archeops. But somehow, Newton outspeeds. And Archeops is OHKO'd by Newton the fucking sack fodder. Newton has single-handedly taken out 4 members of Iris's team. All that's left is her ace Haxorus, and even Haxorus would fall before a Close Combat from Newton. The only thing that keeps it alive is its Focus Sash. And now, as was his destiny, as was his fate, Newton falls and allows us to swap into Jumbo, who finishes the fight in his name. And with that, it's over. We're halfway up the road. Our time in the vanilla games is over. The Genlock is officially finished. The 5 surviving members of this run will not be moving on. From now on, we'll be playing the game straight, with no additional Pokemon moved between games. Next, we move on to the difficulty hacks, starting with Pokemon Fire Red Omega. I'm expecting this game to thoroughly kick my ass and break our no wipe stretch within the first few badges. My goal is to beat the game with single-digit wipes. But we'll have to see how that goes. And if you want to see how that goes, stick around. As always, thanks for watching.